Hello and welcome to Firefly Review. My name is Dave.
I'm Isaac.
And in this edition of the podcast, we're going to be taking a look at the episode Bushwhacked.
Yes, we will.
What was the original air date on this episode?
So this episode came out on September 27th of 2002. 14 years ago.
14 years. Almost, well, in September.
Well, yeah. So 13 and a half-ish. And this episode was the second episode that was aired in the entire series, but of course it's the third episode, chronologically speaking. Yeah,
and in fact, there's a whole scene that's really intensely a part of the first episode that they talk about, where it's like it doesn't fit unless you've actually seen that part. From the pilot, of course, which they didn't air.
The hour and a half long pilot.
Yes. So, all right, we start getting into a little bit of the order of the episodes here, though, which is nice because we're not jumping around as much anymore.
Well, we're not this week, but let's just wait.
Let's just wait and see what happens because it's coming. All right, so let's dive right in. So we start out on Serenity, and they're playing a basketball-looking game with a hoop in the middle that they're all trying to get into.
Some sort of weird game with assuredly made-up rules.
Just some space shit, you know?
And something that was really cool about this scene is it just like shows not only the entire crew, but also some of the passengers just hanging out and having a good time.
Oh yeah, they actually have some downtime. And Nara and Simon, they come out and they're watching and they talk about a river a little bit.
How's your sister?
She's good. No! Better. She has her days. And she still won't talk about what it was that they did to her at the academy.
Perhaps she's not sure herself.
And River is having a great time watching, though. She's watching the game and loving it. But she's out now. She's not just in a box. She's not just freaking out. She's out. She's checking things out.
Yeah, she's trying to, but still she kind of has trouble integrating. She's not really talking to anybody.
No.
She's
not
just
even Simon
watching.
Necessarily.
She's not sulking as much, though.
Yeah, she was just such a whiner. She was like, they
cow.
took my brain.
Jeez.
They hear an alarm. Watching the crew discover that there's an abandoned ship.
It's a ghost.
This is where we see a little bit of River start doing quite a bit more premonition type of stuff.
Kind of, yeah, but it's still a confusing scene because she just says that it's a ghost, which doesn't really mean anything particular. Like, it does. That's a tough one to explain. I mean, what do you think that means by it's a ghost?
It's empty. It's dead. We quickly find out what that means, but it means that she could see something that they can't, something included in this.
Right, so we just kind of further the idea that she's got almost some sort of supernatural perception.
Yeah, and it's very quick, but very obvious because the camera's on her and everything. But the crew discussed that this is a retrofitted cargo ship, usually used for a one-way push to the outer planets or moons. So there's a lot of families that'll do this. Apparently they could pack about 14 to 15 families on one of these and just ship it out to another moon.
Yeah, essentially to start colonizing it, or they're basically the pioneers of that age because they're going out to places that aren't really established as places where humans live currently.
They call it a settler ship because they're going out to settle new land.
And interestingly, this is actually something that the Alliance is kind of, I don't know if they're funding it. I suppose they would be funding it.
I don't know if necessarily if they're funding it, but they are providing help for it.
Right. They're supporting it in some way. So this is, just not as much survival. Maybe it is survival, but it's an Alliance effort to essentially expand, just to keep growing, which is kind of cool. I mean, you get to see this overarching government. They're just colonizing. They're doing what governments do.
Yeah, that's what's kind of rough for me is like maybe the government isn't as bad as we think. Like they are because of the show, but maybe they're not.
So they just come across the ship.
They get ready to board it too. They're going to see what's going on because there's no signs of life, no beacon.
No, it's just spinning, and it's actually spinning. Usually when you see a ship that's adrift, it's not spinning. But of course, if there was nothing to keep it stable, why wouldn't it start
Which is
spinning?
what Kaylee points out.
You can see she don't want to be parked like that. The port thrust's gone, and that's what's making her spin the way she is.
They get ready to get onto the ship, and Jane talks to Simon, tells him that the man that they hit in the beginning is just space trash.
That's what space trash does, kind of latches on the first big something, stops long enough. Hey, now, that'd be a bit like you and your sister, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and this was an interesting scene to me because Simon is kind of unsure of like his place in the crew right now.
Which is a great point to be at in episode 3. It makes sense.
Right, but he wants to be part of the crew. So he grabs his medical kit and he comes to offer any help that he can give. And he just runs into Jane, who's a total asshole.
A lovable, total asshole.
Lovable asshole, but a complete asshole. And so when Jane makes that remark and then walks away, the way that the scene is shot, you just see a little hint of a tear in Simon's eye.
A little twinkle of a tear of sadness.
Just sadness. His eyes just a little bit more watery than it should be.
Mal and Zoe board the ship first, leaving Jane and everybody, but they expect to bring them aboard, and they find that it's been completely abandoned. Completely.
Yeah, it's empty.
There's
no humans. And on top of that, it looks like it was quickly abandoned because the cafeteria still has trays that are full of food.
Yeah. It's been up and left immediately. They find that the the emergency shuttle's also been pushed out. And Zoe finds a personal log that had been interrupted while recording. As it begins to play, we cut to River, and she wakes up in what looks like mental anguish or pain.
Bad dreams again?
I can't sleep. There's too much screaming.
Yeah, and this is something that we've kind of seen before where River wakes up from a nightmare. And this time Simon, as always, runs up to her and he's like, I'm here. Did you have the nightmares again? So she just is consistently having these nightmares. And then the way that they play it out here is it kind of is related to the events that are happening on the ship. Because this scene is just a quick cut. But as we'll see later, it's almost like it gets
incorporated a lot more, which is nice that they were giving us something during this episode after giving us all that other trouble.
Right.
Jane comes up to Simon at this moment and tells him that Mal wants them both on the ship and to suit up. So Jane heads over and Simon gets ready to suit up. He frightfully boards the ship, breathing heavy.
Right, and he's already left because Simon had to go to Inara to ask her to watch over River.
So he rounds the corner and shines his light on the crew, and they're all suitless, no helmets, nothing.
What are you doing here, and what's with the suit?
Apparently, that was just a total lie, and Jane was playing a trick on them because he thought it would be funny.
You're hilarious.
And it was.
So they decided to scavenge the ship, and Kaylee informs Simon on the way out that he was wearing his suit wrong, which just heightens his fears so much more.
And I love the way that Kaylee says it, too, because she's, like, full of concern, and she doesn't want to hurt him, but she's like, that's wrong. That's done wrong, for sure. Yeah, such a great scene. It's amazing how they can get this character development into even just little sections like that.
Once Zoe and Mal are alone after sending them off to check other parts of the ship, Zoe says that the lifeboat wouldn't hold the amount of people that should have been on there. About 14 families we do find out, actually.
I know.
Yeah, so Mal doesn't miss a beat. But this is clearly concerning Zoe. Where are the other passengers? Because what did they do? Just eject out of the airlock?
Yeah, they
have
just
to be
jump
somewhere.
into space. At this time, Inara checks on River because Simon is off checking on the board or the new ship that they've just found that they're about to scavenge.
The one that he didn't really
need to be there for it. Yeah. So Inara checks on River and finds that she's missing. Then we cut to she is actually boarding the ship. Kaylee tells Simon.
By she, you mean River's boarding the ship. So
yeah. At this time, we cut to Simon and Kaylee.
There ain't nothing wrong with this. Not that I can see, anyhow.
So now you're wondering, okay, what's going on here? So they abandoned the ship, clearly, because the lifeboat's gone. But they can't have all made it, and yet they're not all there.
Right. Mal and Zoe actually find a locked cargo door, which is good news, because then they get to pop right in and see what important, expensive stuff is just waiting to be taken. And they find child's toys and enough protein bars and supplies to start a life for, again, 14 families.
Right. There's all the stuff that you need essentially to start a colony.
On a terraformed planet.
On a terraformed planet, yeah. So apparently this stuff is worth a fair bit of money, so they're going to load it up onto the ship. That's what Mal decides. In fact, it's worth so much that the rest of the loot that everyone else is out gathering is apparently unimportant, and Mal just asks everybody to come help load up this loot.
Well,
so there's money here.
This has been from the first episode. This is money. That's what we know. This is money.
Right. Food essentially is money. Because in the outer
supplies
rims,
and protein, money.
Lots of medicine, food, even pretty basic stuff on the outer rims is worth a lot.
Zoe says that they would have at least tried to take some of that with them, right?
And the lifeboat, yeah. So again, Zoe's concerned, where are the other passengers? Something is not adding up here.
Mal says
Nobody escaped.
And he turns to see River standing there staring at the ceiling. And we reveal dead bodies, mutilated dead bodies hanging from the ceiling.
Yep, just strung up there. And Mal doesn't even react to River's appearance.
Not her appearance, no, because he's realizing what happened.
So he, Mal, like I said, he doesn't miss a beat. And this is something that's really cool about it. I don't really think that it was necessarily for the dramatic effect that he didn't react to River. It was because he was in the zone. He knew what was going on.
Yeah, he wasn't ready to jump scare. That's not the type of person Mal is. He immediately radios Jane.
I know what did this. Get her out of here. Jane?
Jane, drop what you're doing and get to the engine room.
I want you to take Kaylee and the doctor off his boat.
Don't ask questions.
Before Jane gets a chance, we see him attacked immediately by a ranged-looking man.
Yep, basically just a figure. We don't get the good look at this guy. And then it cuts.
And we hear gunfire over the radio up in the cockpit. Wash hears this and he starts calling for the captain. Captain. And then he calls for Zoe. And then we cut back. They reach the galley and Jane says he thinks he got him. He says he was a hulking beast and he thinks he shot him.
Yeah, just a big old dude and he might have hit him. And Simon spots some blood on the ground. Yes, he hit them. And they follow the blood to a little secret hatch or secret compartment there in the kitchen.
It's just like an air hatch kind of thing. Didn't this ship kind of remind you of Aliens at first? When they were getting on there?
No, I didn't even think of that.
No, I totally had that Alien feel.
Huh.
This is good times.
Now I will, every time I see this episode.
Well, you should. We'll watch it again.
And we'll watch Alien again.
All of it.
Just all of the episodes.
4 movies worth?
Yeah. But
even the 4th one?
So...
Coming back to Joss.
Maybe not.
Wrote the 4th movie.
He said better days.
He did better with Bushwhacked here.
Yeah. But let's just not mention Dollhouse.
No. Never again. So, back into Firefly verse. The man, they take the man back onto Serenity, and that's after Mal knocks his lights out.
Yeah, I just love the scene. Mal is creeping toward him, and he's like, hey, we're not going to hurt you. And then he gets close enough and just whacks him in the face.
Knocks him right out.
Pulls him out of the hatch, and they carry him back onto Serenity.
He comes to.
Cattle for the slaughter.
This prompts Mal to have Simon dope him.
Yep, and Simon says it's not a good idea. Mal doesn't care.
Just for it.
Do it.
Yep, do it. He locks the medical ward, tells the crew there's no helping him after what he has seen, and that this ship was hit by Reavers.
Yeah, so we already have the impression of what Reavers are, but we don't really have any stories about them yet. So this is kind of interesting now. This is really our first...
They really only leave stories behind, which is what this episode is showing.
Right. So this is kind of our first in-depth look at the Reavers. I know that in the first episode, they were chased by the Reavers.
Right, and they discussed them.
Chase, and they got away, and you only got the idea of how afraid of the Reavers these guys are.
Right.
But now we've come across the place where the Reavers have actually been.
Mal tells them that they'll be leaving the man on the abandoned ship, getting the cargo. Book protests.
Whatever horror he witnessed, whatever acts of barbarism, it was done by men. Nothing more.
Reavers ain't men.
Of course they are. Too long removed from civilization, perhaps. But men. And I believe there's a power greater than men. A power that heals.
Mal disagrees. He does. He doesn't believe that they're man. He says that they got out onto the edge of nothingness, and that's exactly what they became.
Yeah, so this is just a really well-written bit of the story in general, this kind of difference between Shepard and Mal. Like, even Jane is less opposite of a character than Shepard is. You know, even in the first episode, everybody prayed, including Jane, except for Mal.
Yeah, his lack of belief is a very intense part of this show and why it's so important to have somebody like Book. I mean, otherwise there would be no point in writing in the character has a lack of belief, though, I guess.
And yet, at the same time, Shepard clearly has, like, a real trust and respect for Mal.
Did you also notice this? He didn't at all seem shocked by Reavers. And he knew what they were and why and what made them.
Yeah, Shepard really has that attitude toward a lot of things.
These folks are already resting pretty good, Shepard. Reaver saw to that.
How we treat our dead is part of what makes us different than those did the slaughtering.
So he tells them they're going to be boarding the ship.
Work ain't done. Still substantial money value sitting over there.
Oh, I ain't going over there with them bodies. No rutting way. Not if Reavers messed with them.
Jane, you'll scare the women.
I'll go. I've dealt with bodies. They don't worry me.
I'd like to go with him.
Right, so that was interesting. Like, why did Book want to go?
Book wanted to go because he wanted to put them to rest. He felt that they deserved peace, and Mal agreed. And he said that they deserve a peaceful goodbye.
Right, so we see a part of Mal here that kind of came out of nowhere.
And it shocked everybody, including the crew and other passengers. Anara really liked it.
Just when I think I've got you figured out.
Zoe, Kaylee, and just Zoe.
Zoe,
and Kaylee,
Wash.
Wash was there.
Yep, Zoe,
Them
Kaylee,
left.
and Wash and Mal.
Mal
and
reveals that yes, it was a.
It was all a ruse.
Didn't think you were one for rituals and such.
I'm not. But I figured it'll keep the others busy for a while. No reason to concern them with what's to be done.
Sir?
It's a real burden being right so often.
What is that?
Booby trap.
So when you dock, the Reavers set a booby trap. And what's really cool is it's this organic looking thing that attaches, and when they leave, it blows.
Yep. Which is kind of a crazy deal. Like, so apparently the idea is that the Reavers will ravage a ship and then set it up so that if anybody tries to dock to see what's going on, the Reavers now get the booty from the docked ship as well. So it's a twofer.
And we find out too that the only way that you would really know this happening is if you know this happens, because they had no idea. Mal had to show them.
Yeah, how did Mal know about that too?
They don't really talk. He seems to know a lot about Reavers. It's strange.
It is kind of strange.
Kaylee thinks she can actually bypass it.
You tell me right now, little Kaylee, you really think you can do this?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. Besides, if I mess up, it's not like you'll be able to yell at me.
And attempts to do so while the others lower the dead bodies in the other ship. So Book, Jane, and Simon are actually in there. They're lowering the dead bodies. River is sleeping in Anara's bed at the time. And the man in the medical room wakes up.
Yeah, so we just get a lot that happens here in just a short amount of time. Cutting back and forth.
So River's sleeping in the bed, and the medical room wakes up laughing. And River wakes up at the same time in Anara's bed. She is frightened, shocked, terrified, screaming, and Anara is holding her. And at that exact same time, Kaylee crawls into the ship and cuts an organic line, and it actually bleeds. And this works. The booby trap retracts from the ship like it's in pain. It pulls away, which is cool to see.
Everyone's home, Wash. Let's go.
No, don't you say that. It's the Reavers. Go armed Reavers, come back.
Get that stuff stored.
Like it's gonna matter.
Just do it.
Mal and Zoe head up to the cockpit and see that it's actually the Alliance. and they tell them they're going to be boarded.
Yeah, and they don't have an option because they just separated from the ship that the Reavers had ravaged, and now the Alliance has essentially caught them. Maybe not in their tractor beam, but they don't have any control. There's no way for them to get away.
Right. On the Alliance ship, they discussed that the missing ship was 3 weeks late. So the derelict ship, the one that was abandoned in space, was 3 weeks late at the point that they found it. One soldier says he remembers a flag on a Firefly stating that it's for a brother and a sister. So they're obviously... This guy should get a little reward or something that he remembered that there's a flag on a Firefly, because the other guy mentions that there's 40,000 of these things flying around in space, and he remembered that there's supposed to be a Firefly. There's something out on a Firefly. We're about to pick one up. Isn't that strange?
Right, but can you imagine if like the person who actually got it really got the credit?
He'd be like, fuck yeah, man.
Yeah, because definitely, even if there was credit to be had, somebody else would take it. For sure.
That's their style.
That's how it works.
Back on Serenity, Mal tells Jane and the crew to put the stolen cargo right up front in plain sight, where everybody's going to be able to see it. Jane is obviously upset by this because Jane's kind of just a pissed off critter in this episode, other than the one time he makes fun of Simon.
Yeah, Jane's just kind of like that all the time, though. It's about the money. He didn't want them to take the cargo.
Yeah, and Simon's actually down here right now, and he's terrified because the Alliance, this is exactly who he's trying to stay away from. He's upset. Mal finishes taking all the Starling cargo out and tells Simon to get River. Simon gets very upset.
Why, are you going to put her in plain sight too?
Don't get tetchy. Just do as I say.
Is that why you let us stay? So you could use us as bargaining chips?
Knew there was a reason.
They're not taking her, and you are not giving her to them.
And Book steps in.
Don't be a fool, son. Do as the man says.
So this is what
Mal
I
steps
meant.
back from that.
Yeah, so obviously Shepard has trust in the captain. Like, even all the things that he doesn't like about the captain, he believes that he's a good person and knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and Mal lets Book do this. Lets him step in front of him.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting character development, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, and he doesn't say anything.
And
I thought
Jane,
that was fascinating.
Jane concedes, too. Like,
Simon,
yeah, my bad.
Yeah, Simon concedes. The Alliance boards the ship, guns in tow, like a lot of them. And we see everyone except for River and Simon standing clearly around the Alliance cargo, the protein
loot.
bar, the loot. Oh yeah, that's cool. They actually get called pirates in this episode too.
Pirates with their own chaplain.
Then Mal tells the Alliance head that there's one other person on the ship, and he's in the infirmary. They've saved him. They've saved this man.
And these items, I take it you rescued them as well.
The armed men enter, and they find a destroyed infirmary, and they hear him laughing, and we cut away. Then the Alliance taunts Mal, saying that they wouldn't blame him if there were stowaways.
No one would blame you for that, Captain. I know how these older model Fireflies tend to have those troublesome little nooks.
Do they?
Smugglers and the like tend to prefer them just for that reason.
Right, and another little excellent bit of misdirect is it seems pretty obvious that they're unloading the cargo so that we can hide Simon and River in the same spot where the cargo is usually hidden.
Oh yeah, and we jump into that whenever they take him back for interrogation, and they search the ship to just rip it apart. And this is when we slowly pull out the window to find River and Simon in space, clinging onto the ship.
Outside of the ship. And this is a cool scene because River just loves it. She loves it out there. Just looking at the sky and looking at the verse it makes her not only smile, but like genuinely
Giddy.
happy. And Simon's like, oh, wow, this is weird. I haven't seen this in forever.
I wrote down that she was joyed.
That's a good descriptor because she was.
She was, yeah, there was so much genuine happiness on her face to look out into nothingness, which of course Simon was terrified of because the idea of space and nothingness just frightens him to no end. But I also thought that was important for two reasons. That scene explores their relationship in a big way, but it also harkens back to what he did for her. And he's doing it now again. He is terrified of space. He's terrified of losing his life. But it doesn't matter. He'll still do all of it if he can save his sister.
Right.
That's the only thing that he'll do.
It's just an excellent dynamic. Like you just believe that he will do anything for her. And he will.
He proves that multiple times. He gives up everything. And what still frightens him, he will work past if it means saving his sister. That's a pretty cool dynamic. And I think that scene displayed it really well, because even though he's out there with her, he is so scared. He looks out and he is so scared.
Yes.
During all this, we see an interrogation of each crew member.
And I love in this part,
including Book.
We just get to see every character being interrogated by the Alliance, and none of them like the Alliance. None of these people are fans of being here.
Kaylee's just more upset that her ship got called a junker.
Yeah. So we get to see like all the characters just being themselves, responding to an Alliance interview, and what a fun scene.
Oh yeah, and I mean, Zoe and Wash together had the best part of it.
Oh, absolutely.
You two met through Captain Reynolds.
Captain was looking for a pilot. I found a husband. Seemed to work out.
You fought with Captain Reynolds in the war.
Fought with a lot of people in the war.
And your husband.
Fight with him sometimes too.
Is there any particular reason you don't wish to discuss your marriage?
Don't see that it's any of your business is all. We're very private people.
The legs. Oh, yeah, I definitely have to say it was her legs. You can put that down. Her legs, and right where her legs meet her back. That whole area. That and above it.
This is when we see Mal's interrogation. The Alliance head refers to Serenity Valley as a place that is known where the war ended. It was essentially where things were turned. A turning point happened in that valley. And that's part of the war that Mal is involved with, and that means so much to him. And he talks about how the man that they had is now doing poorly, and he would ask him himself what happened, but his tongue has been split, and he hasn't seen that kind of torture since the war. He blames the death of the crew, the ship, and this guy's torture on Mal in this moment.
Right, so he thinks that Mal's the kind of guy who kind of misses the war, the violence even of the war, and that he just ravaged the ship by himself to essentially bring back that feeling of the war. And of course, that's not Mal.
No, we know that. But when Mal hears this, he does have a reaction. And he informs him that it's Reavers and tells him why this is terrifying. The Alliance doesn't believe him, though.
Nope. And then we get...
Well, we see, at this point, we see River and Simon actually reboard the ship now that they're done searching. Really quickly, did you see that one guy who was searching under every placemat on the table?
I didn't see that because I saw another guy who is just kind of doing his thing, and he turns around and he walks up to the table and he grabs one of the mats and he throws it off, and then he walks away from the table. That's all he does. He walks up to the table, grabs one of those placemats, throws it off of the table, and then walks away.
Fuck that placemat, man. Fuck it. Yeah, no, that scene was pretty funny because it was obvious that they were given direction to just like, tear things up, look like you're looking for something really intensely. And they're just, one guy checks under every placemat. All of them.
It's even.
I play a lot of video games, and sometimes secret codes are under things like this. So maybe they got like a safe or something. Well, we'll find it.
Just such a great little show.
Goddamn purple bellies.
Like a part where you watch it and it's serious, but you pay attention, and everybody's fucking around. All of them.
The blooper reel for Firefly is one of the best things I've ever seen in my entire life. Nathan Fillion is just wonderful in all of those.
He is a beautiful human being.
What?
Oh,
Nathan Fillion?
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yes.
So Simon and River reboard the ship now that it is done being searched. And back on Serenity, River's quickly frightened. And we cut back, and Mal has convinced the Alliance that the escaped patient is on Serenity. You see, during this little extravaganza, the doctors were looking at him and seeing what they could do, and he escaped. He just brutally escaped.
Right. While Mal was kind of foreshadowing, really, the guy whips out a knife while he's on the medical bed, and then you just get sounds of gore, essentially.
Yeah, it was gory, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Mal basically foreshadows that this guy's going to be turning into a Reaver because it's the only thing that, like, they've messed him up.
He explains that they made him watch.
They made him watch. And he probably tried to turn away. They wouldn't let him. You call him a survivor, he's not.
Can we talk about how Reavers are one of the most terrifying things ever created in sci-fi and they're not really referenced enough?
Yeah, part of their terror, though, I think is in their mystery.
Yeah, that's true. But they're still not referenced enough as one of the most terrifying, like,
I
space
agree.
beasts.
Yeah, seriously. Like, there's just so much ominous that surrounds these guys.
Well, Mal convinces them that he is on Serenity. They take him there. They take his cuffs off and then put him back on in front of him and have him board the ship. River and Simon are walking around a little bit and she's really scared. They start hearing noises and they hide. And this is when Mal and the Alliance enter the galley.
Right, so this was the room that River refused to enter. She was just too scared to go into this room.
We as an audience know it's because he's in there.
Right, but nobody else really.
Nobody else knows.
None of the crew know, and River might know, but on more of a supernatural level.
Level that we literally don't know how to describe because we were never given a descriptor.
Yeah, and then Simon just thinks she's being River. But they hear the noises, they hide around the corner.
Which is pretty cool, because Mal, on the ship, sees one of the spacesuit helmets in the corner and looks at the Alliance and motions for them to be quiet as though he's looking for this guy and steps up around the corner.
Right, and he just takes a look at Simon and River. And then
The man jumps out from behind the counter, slicing the throat of an Alliance soldier, blood everywhere, all over the head Alliance's face. It's amazing. Then he jumps down and starts attacking the head Alliance, and his face is fucking mutilated. Just annihilated.
Yeah, because Reavers are that way. In fact,
self-mutilation.
Mal said he's going to make himself look like a Reaver by essentially just cutting on himself.
This is the closest we get to seeing one.
Right, up to this point, this is all that we have to go on for Reavers, and they are terrifying.
Oh man, he's got like needles in his face, hooking things and holding him up. It is really scary. So he's got him pinned down, and Mal comes up and saves him, killing the man was the Reaver at this point. Yeah, I mean, we could refer to him as a Reaver. Because that's what Reavers are as well. They're men who made it to the edge of space and lost their sanity.
Yeah, essentially.
Serenity and crew are allowed to leave after all of this because Reavers aren't so questionable anymore. Simon and River were never seen. They're fine. But they're leaving without the cargo, so Alliance obviously took those, and Jane, that's all he's pissed off about. After this whole episode of being afraid of the ship, afraid of Reavers, he's only upset because they took the Goram cargo.
Yep.
But that's Jane.
Because that's the money.
And
that's
on our final, it's the loot! And they do get called pirates when they're getting interrogated, which is awesome. Pirates.
They kind of are, though.
They are.
They're space pirates.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It is awesome.
I love that they're pirates. And they're Western.
They're
and
Western
space.
space pirates.
It's perfect.
Amazing.
The Alliance blows up the derelict ship. Obviously, they don't want no more Reaver madness.
Reaver madness.
Reaver madness.
Boy, they should do a propaganda video.
Called Reaver Madness?
Called Reaver Madness.
Reefer
all about
Madness.
the dangers of Reavers.
That is the episode Bushwhacked. An incredible Reaver episode. An alien feel. A thriller. Suspense. Scary. And really, that face was fucking scary at the end.
Yeah, in this particular episode, I think just out of the last two that we've seen, I think it's the best one so far. I mean, I realize that we're only on episode 3, and we had the train job last week, which was, kind of well known as the lesser of the series.
But that's fair, and we know why, and we discussed that.
But this is an excellent episode.
It is. It really is exciting. I like this one.
And we get some more insight into the Reavers, who we'll see again.
Oh, we'll see them again. All right. Well, that wraps up the episode Bushwhacked. Isaac, what's your favorite quote this week?
I wrote down several of them because, of course, just the dialogue in this show, incredible.
Oh, every time.
Incredible. Here's the one that I picked, however. This is Jane. Right after they discover that the ship was ravished by Reavers, and Mal wants to go back onto the ship.
Yeah, no, someone could be hurt.
I almost chose that one myself. That is a great quote. Mine was even before that, when they were playing the game and the alarm starts going off, and Wash says,
Oh my God, what can it be? We're all doomed. Who's flying this thing? Oh, right, that would be me. Back to work.
I, too, almost wrote that one down because I feel like that's one of my favorite Wash lines from the entire series.
Another thing we should point out really quick before we start wrapping this episode up is Jane was wearing a Blue Sun shirt, which Blue Sun is awesome because it's come up even well more than we've mentioned. Blue Sun is tacked all over the verse because it was intended to come up much later, and it was written for a show that was supposed to be 7 seasons. Everybody, a moment of silence for the 6 seasons. All right, and we're back.
So let's explain kind of what Blue Sun is, because I don't really know a whole lot about this.
Blue Sun is a corporation set within the verse, and we start finding, or we would have found, that they have a lot of manipulation and evil doings. So let's compare them to McDonald's currently.
So they are a mega corporation and the universe.
Maybe
of
there's a
Firefly.
better one. What's an evil corporation? DuPont.
They're a DuPont or a Dow.
They're a DuPont.
Chemical company. Okay, so essentially they are just a corporation that's all about the money.
All
and
powerful.
essentially what you would expect from just an evil corporation.
Corporate China America.
Yep, the one. Like the one.
Like Neo, the one?
Like, yeah,
Like
like
it's all
that
a
kind, like
Matrix?
Harry Potter.
Oh, like what?
Like, yeah.
None of that makes sense.
Like the one.
Mal's the one?
What are we talking about?
No, River's the one.
River's the one. That's it.
Absolutely.
That's the one that we're after.
We want to think it. What?
So this
River.
Yeah, so far I realized 3 episodes in, I think this is my favorite so far.
Oh, I agree. So far with the episodes that we've seen, this is my favorite. The pilot is a tough one not to call.
Right.
But
and I mean it also has an advantage of being 2 episodes, but also we can call those 2 episodes. So
it's absolutely 1 episode.
That's true. In fact, when you watch it on Netflix or on the DVD,
it doesn't break it down to 2.
You don't know where the episode break is.
I do.
Well, you might, but when you're just watching the show, you wouldn't be able to pick out the
I agree.
The break.
I agree.
So yeah, it's essentially just 1 episode.
An excellent episode, we
One
dare say.
excellent
But so far,
episode.
we are on Bushwhacked. But we hope you join us next week for Shindig, because that one is very exciting. A lot of fun.
I'm very excited.
A lot of environment to discover, and we will be checking that one out next week here on Firefly Review. If you want to get in contact with us, you can do so at fireflyreview@gmail.com. Isaac, do you have anything for us?
No.
What?
Nothing else.
Why did I call to you?
Nothing else for this
Why
week.
did you look like you had something to say on your face without pointing to me in any way?
Well, because you're making lots of noises with that chair over there.
Oh, shit. Calling out some background stuff? All right, everybody. Thank you for listening this week. We will talk to you soon. Have a good one. Sayonara.
Adios.
There's no place I can be since I found serenity. But you can't take the sky from me.